Hey everybody, it's Bilal with Thicker Color. I got another video for you. I know it's been a little while, but got a little busy and I started a new project here. I hope you all like it. Check it out. Okay, so right here, what I'm doing is I'm choosing my color palette. This is a picture of pumpkins, bunches of pumpkins, and I'm going to have mostly oranges in it. Laying out my materials here, some blending materials and a few erasers and my black pencils. It's going to be all chalk pastel. I already have drawn out the outlines and everything, and now what I'm going to do here is I start off by coloring in a little spot and erasing the lines, the outlines, and drawing it in with chalk pastel. The lighter color, I didn't go with the darker color for the outline because that's going to change over time, but I go ahead and erase most of that. That brush you see there, I wipe off the erasings in a way that it won't smudge the pastel. That brush there is good for that. Then I blend the color, that's going to be my base color. I blend that in with a Q-tip. I like using the Q-tip. It's easy to use and it gets it blended pretty well. Then now what I'm doing is going back in and putting in the lines that define the pumpkin. It has these lines that kind of shape it and differentiate it from other types of things. And while doing that, I put a little shading there, and I'm just blending that in. I use a few different methods for blending in this one. Well, here I think I'm putting in the shadow there. It has shadows, but I don't want to get too dark and too deep with it. So what I do is I take the orange and blend it in along with the black for the shadows and for the shading. That is a orange chalk pastel pencil. It's the darker orange, and it helps to accentuate those shadows in there. A lot of the shading a lot of the shadows with the black is going to be along the line of the those lines that the pumpkin has in it, because it kind of folds in at that point, so it's going to have a shadow on it. And I go in with the with a softer orange and then blend it, and go in with a darker orange to accentuate it a little bit, get the deeper shadows, and I blend that. And what I do is I blend and add more layers, blend, add another layer, and I try to get the last layer without blending it, and just put the color on top of it because it gives it a good texture. I like the texture of the chalk pastel, so I put that last layer on as much as I can without blending. See there, I'm getting all the colors together, blending, and now I'm putting in that final layer, and I blended a little bit, but not all the way around. Then with that kneaded eraser you seen there, I kind of pulled out a little highlights towards the middle of the pumpkin, and I clean up around the pumpkin. I clean up around it as often as possible to try to keep it sharp and keep the lines sharp and keep it clean on the background, as to not spread chalk everywhere because the pastel they spread easily and it can get messy. So I try to clean up as often as possible. Just going back in with the same process. And you'll see sometimes I blend with the blending stomp, and sometimes I will use the Q-tip. Just depends on what my phone. I think when I use the Q-tip is to blend the entire thing at one time, the entire section at one time, and then the blending stomp is to get a smaller area blended well. And I leave a spot in there for the highlight, and whenever I need to accentuate that, I just use the kneaded eraser. And just going along with the same process on now. In the middle, it was a little bit lighter than on the edges, so I tried to not put as much of the darker oranges in it, but I had to accentuate the lines with that, and it worked out pretty well. There I go, cleaning up again. Just trying to keep it clean around the edges, and getting the lines in that defines the shape. Get those lines in properly. As I go around to the edge, it was lighter in the middle, but then it gets darker again, and that helps to pull out the definition. It gives it some definition and some depth when you really get the lighting in it. In the middle, it was a lot lighter than it was on the edges. So as I go around now, I got darker a little bit. And I kind of just sped that up. Now, if you see on the right side, I also have some of those blacks in there, and I tried to accentuate that with the orange, with the darker orange pastel color pencil. And so now I'm going on to the second pumpkin, and I'm doing the same process. I erased the lines, the graphite lines that I put there to get the shapes in, and I redraw it in with the lighter orange chalk pastel. I think I missed a shadow at one point, so I went back. I sometimes I may go back and forth between different pumpkins, but I went and made that shadow a little deeper. But that was just one thing I seen I did. I went back and corrected it. As you'll see, every time I use the eraser, I go in with this brush and try to clean it off, so I won't leave any marks that erasing will leave. Same process, and now I'm going to put some of the color down to get the base color, which is the lighter orange, and blend that in with the Q-tip, and then go back and start getting the detail after I finish with that. So it's pretty much the same process. Now in this video, I was only able to do these two pumpkins, and this may be maybe a 3-part video. It really takes a while dealing with this chalk, because you have to layer. You have to get 2 or 3, maybe 4 layers on to get the color that you really want. And also keep it clean at the same time. But in the meantime, maybe I'll do some other videos if I have other ideas that I really want to get across to you all. In the meantime, I will, but this is the project I'm working on now. So you see there, what I did was I erased the line that was on a different pumpkin than the one I was working on, because it was crossing the pumpkin that I was actually working on. So I wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way so I won't miss it later, because I already put color on it. So you see, I put a little shadow on the bottom one. Now those 2 pumpkins are covering this one that I'm working on now, so it left it a little darker on the bottom side of it. and I tried to depict that as much as possible. This is really a fun project. It's a lot of shading going on here to give it definition, and actually also the way the lines curve around the pumpkin really accentuates the shape and the depth of it, which was really fun for me to do. And also, I leave a little spot there for the highlight, and you'll see me go back and forth with that with the kneaded eraser to get the highlights in, and just using this. Now this orange pastel pencil, color pencil that I use there is mostly for the corners where the shading is a lot deeper, and also the lines that goes around, because that's where most of the darker areas are. So I am also have this chalk pastel there, the square one that I'm using. It's not the same one that I use for the base color. It's a different one. It's a little bit darker. So I think I have there three different orange colors in there. It's like a light, a medium, and a dark. I've been listening to some other artists, and a lot of them talk about the threes, doing things in threes, and it brings it out a little better. It makes it for more depth and things like that. I guess it's been working for me, so I try to stick with that rule. And like I say, I blend and 2 or 3 layers, and then on a final layer I try to just leave the chalk pastel without blending in certain areas to give it a little more texture, and it works out pretty well. As I go around towards the top, it did get lighter in the reference photo, and I tried to depict that as much as possible. And then as I went around towards the back side of the pumpkin on the right, it started getting a little darker. So I had to constantly adjust, how light things were, and light and dark, and get those contrasts in there. And also, you see I darken up those lines, and sometimes see with chalk, as you go on layers, as you put layer on top of layer, sometimes you lose lines that you put that really needs to be shown. So you got to go back and accentuate those lines. So also in this area, I had to go and use some of the blacks, because this is, like I say, it's a darker shadow on this side of the pumpkin where I am now, and I was using that small blending stump to blend that area. It's a small area where the detail is essential. Then it had this drop shadow from the pumpkin to the right of it. There, that's what I put that black shadow in, and I blended in some orange. I have learned that it's not good to just put straight black, because it'll kind of defeat the drawing. So I try to blend the color that I'm using in with it, and it works pretty well. It gives it more of a soft shadow. It's not too hard. And then I went back and accentuated lines, and it worked out. So that's it, guys, for today. I'll have the next edition coming soon. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe, and thank you all for showing up again, and stay tuned for the next one.